So you want to get into Fate, but there are too many contradicting arguments with 15 people telling you 15 different things, a mass amount of anime with like certain watch orders and all of this. But if you somehow stumbled upon this, then welcome. I'm going to show you what I believe is the best means of getting into Fate with a lot of extra explanation for people who want to know some other things and just get into extra stuff after you've gotten through the main things that give you the best idea of what Fate is. So, unfortunately, the best means of getting into Fate is reading. And I know people don't like reading, but visual novels are a good form of reading for those who don't like reading just normal books, because they contain voice acting, albeit if you are a dubs person, there is no English dub. Um, there is voice acting, sound effects, music. There is still the descriptive text that you would find in a book, but it also contains character portraits, backgrounds, and CGs. And now I'm just describing what visual novels are, but I figured it was worth a mention. Now, the visual novel is split into three distinct routes: the Fate route, which is otherwise known as the Saber route; the Unlimited Blade Works route, which is otherwise known as the Rin route; and the Heaven's Feel route, which is otherwise known as the Sakura route. Unlike your typical visual novel, you have to play these in order. The, at least the remastered version does not let you play them out of order, since the Fate route contains a lot of the explanation for what the Holy Grail War is and what that entails, that being a battle royale where one summons a servant that is usually from some kinds of mythology or history, um, while enacting upon the battle royale. Um, the battle royale concept, Unlimited Blade Works doesn't do as much explanation, but it falls through on a lot more of the battle royale aspects with a lot more combat and stuff, um, and focuses on the character of Archer quite a bit, even if this is supposed to be the Rin route. Uh, just gonna circle back to Fate. It does, if you like the idea of getting to know Saber, because Saber is the iconic character, the Fate route is the one that goes the most in depth with that. And when we get to the adaptations, you'll see why that can become a problem. And then, of course, there's the Heaven's Feel route, which, while I don't want to spoil things, it is the most tonally different of the three routes. It is, quite frankly, dark. Once you're done with the Fate Stay Night visual novel, there is a follow-up visual novel known as Fate Hollow Ataraxia. Technically, this is a fan disc, um, meant as a sort of, well, it's a lot of fan service stuff that didn't make it into the main game, and like 60% of it is like slice of life stuff with the characters, and you get to see them outside of the context of a Holy Grail War. So, as we'll get to with a entry of anime later, it's just kind of nice to see the characters not wanting to kill each other. But 30% of it is also like serious stuff, like you would expect from a Fate entry. Um, but while this is a follow up, it's not exactly an essential sequel. Fate Stay Night is still the essential part of enjoying Fate. scrap all that. What if you don't want to read and you just want to watch anime? Well, you've ended up reading the visual novels and now you want to see the anime adaptations. Well, you're in luck, because Fate Stay Night has some anime adaptations and there is some cool ones to watch. Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works, which is an adaptation of the second route of the visual novel. Yes, second route, we're not going to talk about the adaptation of the Fate route in this section. That is followed by the Fate Stay Night Heaven's Feel movie trilogy by Studio Ufotable. While it is very good, especially in its animation and presentation, um, trimming down the second longest route of the visual novel into a movie trilogy that only comes about to 6 hours, you can definitely feel that there is something missing even if you haven't read the visual novel. And I say that from experience because before I watched this, I basically went in anime first and went into Heaven's Feel. Um, and I felt that there was a lot that I was missing. But yeah, anyway. And then you want to go and watch Fate Zero, and which is also done by Studio Ufotable. Even if you have played the visual novel and don't want to see anime, well, you don't want to repeat anime of stuff you've already seen, although I would recommend doing so, because seeing it animated by Ufotable especially is really good. Fate Zero is a prequel to Stay Night and covers the events of the previous Holy Grail War from 10 years ago. This gives you more Saber if you're going to be an anime only and you're not going to watch the adaptation of the Fate route. Granted, there are some differences to how she's written because Fate Zero was actually based off a novel that was written by a different author, of which are known for things like Madoka Magica and other things I can't remember off the top of my head. Now, if you want to just watch anime, this is what I would recommend doing. And despite all of the other shows that exist in this franchise, this is the best of Fate. Everything else is just kind of nice additions. So, with that said, if you want to see more of the Fate Stay Night cast, we have 3 shows. Today's Menu for the Emiya Family by Studio Ufotable. This is kind of like the 60% of fluff in Hollow Ataraxia. Just nice slice of life events that happens to the cast of Stay Night, with also the context of people coming around to Shiro Emiya's for cooking. There is the Fate Stay Night adaptation by Studio Dean. This is the adaptation of the Fate slash Saber route um, done in 2006. And while it would be certainly good for anime onlys to get a better idea on what the deal with Saber is, because just watching Unlimited Blade Works and Heaven's Feel, you don't get a good idea on why Saber is as popular as she is. This can help you get a good idea, but I am putting this as probably watch after um, the other 3 we've watched, or I've already listed, because it includes elements that are straight up from the end portions of Heaven's Feel and Unlimited Blade Works, just because Dean felt like they wouldn't be able to adapt those routes. They weren't able to adapt one of those. They were able to adapt Unlimited Blade Works into a single movie. This is more like a highlight reel of events from Unlimited Blade Works crammed into a single movie. It would definitely be an interesting watch just for the sake of seeing these moments again done by the studio who did the original show. These two should only be watched if you're really curious about how Dean did Stay Night. If there's any takeaway from this slide, just watch today's menu for the MEI family. Please. It would also just be a nice kind of seeing these characters be happy and not killing each other all the time. And after that, honestly, just go nuts. Everything involving the Stay Night cast and all of that is the main part of Fate, as mentioned before. It is, if you were to ask someone about Fate and they were likely smart and did Stay Night, or they first, or did eventually get around to it, everyone, like, I'm pretty sure 9 out of 10 people would tell you everything involving Stay Night, i.e., Unlimited Blade Works, Heaven's Feel, Zero, or the visual novel readers with Stay Night and Hollow Out Araxia would tell you that is the best part of Fate. Everything else is just kind of additional. But I'm gonna recommend some other things just based off of uh, concept, basically. Fate Apocrypha by Studio A1 Pictures. This contains the Great Holy Grail War, of which I am not qualified to talk about because I don't quite understand it. But all I will say is that it features the three iconic servants, Joan of Arc, um, Astolfo, which is our favorite femboy in all of anime, I guess, and Mordred, who is Saber of Red, if I'm recalling that correctly. And then there is the currently airing anime Fate Strange Fake by Studio A1 Pictures. While it is currently airing, it has a very interesting concept, and that is being that it takes place in the States, and they've created a fake Holy Grail War which causes some abnormalities. What's interesting is that this was adapted from a light novel series that was written by the author of Bakuno and such, and it was initially supposed to be an April Fool's joke called Fake States Night, if I recall correctly. What about video games? Well, if you're like me and you like playing video games and not just visual novels because they don't count in this context, there is a few pickings, but mainly from two areas. Welcome to the Fate Extra subseries. While I would likely recommend this, I haven't experienced this myself, so this is more of a this thing exists, probably take a good look at it. But this takes place in a digital landscape where the Holy Grail takes place instead of it being a physical place. It is a turn based dungeon crawling RPG that has a good amount of plot to it, featuring Red Saber or Nero Claudius. I really hope I'm not getting the Red Sabers confused. Now there is Fate Extra CCC. This is unfortunately the hardest thing to uh, try and find in this entire uh, presentation because this does not have an official English translation, despite what my images here say this is from a fan translation. It is currently only out in Japan, but I'm pretty sure you can find the fan translation if you look. It follows the same basically gameplay formula, but it contains a story that happens concurrently with the main Fate Extra storyline. While we are supposed to be talking about games, we have the anime Fate Extra Lost Encore. It is a somewhat adaptation of Fate Extra, but it also contains its own spin on it, and it is recommended to be seen after at least just Fate Extra. Now we have the Fate Extella entries featuring, well, Fate Extella. This is actually in the Muso genre, which is a genre that was defined basically by Dynasty Warriors with hack and slash against hordes of enemies gameplay. Um, the story is a continuation of the Extella games, and that's about all I can say. Then there's Fate Extella Link, featuring a new um, Saber Servant. Follows the same gameplay basically, and it is just a continuation on the Extella story. I should have noted that this subseries, when you play it for yourself, it features a selectable servant. I think Extra let you pick between um, a Nero Claudius, the Red Saber archer, who is the same archer in Stay Night, otherwise known as Nameless, and a caster servant whom I do not remember, but is featured in the artwork of Extella Link, as can be seen here. And then the final entry here is Fate Extra Record. This is not out yet. It was supposed to release last year, but as of now, it has been delayed to spring of 2026. Whether or not it actually gets released in that time, we can only hope. But it's supposed to change the gameplay while remaining true to being a dungeon crawling turn-based RPG. Now, here's my personal highest recommendation for games in the Fate series, Fate Samurai Remnant. It is also a Muso game, but this time made by Koei Tecmo, who created the Dynasty Warriors franchise. It features some pretty tight gameplay, even if gameplay is probably its weakest strength. But it is also just a good time. It features an interesting story. It features an interesting twist on the Holy Grail War set in the Edo period of Japan, with what is known as the Waxing Moon ritual, which basically being the same as a Holy Grail War, except there is the addition of rogue servants, which feature 8 additional servants that don't have a master for you to fight in combat and potentially ally with. It features well, a new addition to the Saberface situation. Um, but it is also technically historical fiction because the main character you play as is Miyamoto Iori, who is a historical figure with his teacher slash adopted father being Miyamoto Musashi, whom is also a servant in this waxing moon ritual. And apparently, this game came about because someone who was a big fan of Miyamoto Musashi came up and brought the idea of this, and they just really liked Miyamoto Musashi, so therefore this game exists as a result. Did not have the foresight to actually put Miyamoto Musashi into any of these images because I just wanted to show off images of the game that would give a good idea. Yes, petting the cat is important. And basically, that's it. There's nothing else for me to talk about. Like, I'm not forgetting anything, right? No, 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 no. Why do I have to talk about Grand Order? No. Fate Grand Order is a turn-based mobile gacha RPG. It features some of the stingiest gacha rates I have ever seen, and the turn-based gameplay is honestly pretty boring, and it's very easy to get power scaled. It should only be tried if you have a lot of money to just kind of burn if you decide to. It has produced the highest revenue stream for the entire franchise as of late, and it is why we are able to get such high quality products like Fate Samurai Remnant these days, even if half of the projects that come out from Type Moon gets delayed to heck and back. Um, it the way that the story is presented is also pretty bad. It is very basic visual novel, even more so than um, even more so than the Stay Night and Hollow Ataraxia. It just is extremely generic and boring. That said, the stories that contained in especially the singularities are interesting in of themselves to the point where they have gotten several things like manga adaptations, which is what a lot of people would recommend over just reading the vision, not the vision, reading the story of the mobile game. But there is also some anime to watch featuring Fate Grand Order First Order by Studio Late Deuce. This sets the foundation for the First Order anime shows into the Camelot movie duology. This is an adaptation of the Sixth Singularity. Yes, we've skipped 5 singularities, but the singularities themselves are self-contained enough to not need to watch all of them. Um, done by the done by studios Signal MD and Production IG respectively. The Absolute Demonic Front Babylonia by Studio Cloverworks. While this anime came out before the Camelot movies, because it is of the singularity after Camelot, people would recommend watching this after Camelot. And then there is the final singularity Grand Temple of Time Solomon by Studio Cloverworks. And yeah, outside of this, just go find the manga somewhere, which most of it I believe is digital. I don't think you can find them physically. But that is basically it. We are done. Thank you for your time. Um, my apologies for anything I may have gotten incorrect. I am still relatively new to this series myself, but have a good day.